Hi everybody! Welcome to my session on Makerspaces, which is a part of the Ed Collab gathering. My name is Laura Fleming, and I'm broadcasting to you today from my office at New Milford High School in New Milford, New Jersey. This session is called Worlds of Making, Establishing a Makerspace for Your School. As we go along, I'd love to know your thoughts, your comments, feedback, questions, anything you might have related to maker spaces or this maker movement in general. So if you have any thoughts, please tweet them to the hashtag for my session, which is at the bottom of this slide, the Ed Collab Gathering, number 13. Before I get started, I just want to tell those of you who don't know me a little bit about myself. I'm a teacher / media specialist / tech integration specialist / a million other things at New Milford High School in New Milford, New Jersey. I'm an educational consultant. I'm a blogger. My blog can be found at worlds-of-learning.com. I'm the creator of a digital badge-based professional learning platform, which I definitely encourage you to visit. I'm a public speaker and writer. I'm on Twitter. My Twitter handle is at NMHS_LMS. And this URL at the bottom is the website for my makerspace. It's worlds-of-making-NMHS.com. If you scan the QR code at the top of this slide, it'll take you right to my blog, which will take you everywhere else. So today we're here to talk about this whole idea of making and how we can all leverage this maker movement. So whether you're a school librarian, teach 5th grade, or are a content area teacher at the high school level, there is something in this movement for everyone. It's my hope that by the end of today, you'll understand the importance of the maker movement and hopefully come away with some ideas of how you can integrate this idea of making into your content area, grade level, or area of expertise. Really, my own story starts here. I was recruited last year by my then principal, Eric Scheninger, to be the library media specialist at New Milford High School. This is a photograph of my library when I first began. It was once described by Eric on his blog as a barren wasteland. My challenge was to transform it into a vibrant learning environment that our students needed, deserved, and valued. I'm so happy to say that in an incredibly short amount of time, thanks to our makerspace, our once barren library was turned into a thriving learning metropolis where students flock to tinker, invent, create, collaborate, work, and most importantly, learn through rigorous exploration. Something I love about our makerspace is that it attracts both girls and boys. There are times when we have our engineering students in the space right along with our English language learners and developmentally disabled students. We have really democratized these STEM-related concepts, and in doing so, we have seen students truly taking control of their own learning in ways that we have never seen before. So our library once looked like this, but it also sounded like this. Silence. And now I'm happy to say that it sounds and looks very differently. So what I'm going to do is move over to our Vine channel so that you can get a taste of what making looks like and sounds like in our library today. So that's just a little snapshot of what making looks like and sounds like in our library today. I definitely encourage you to go on over and visit our Vine channel and watch all of the movies that demonstrate our students' creations and learning taking place in our makerspace. So now that we see what making looks like and what making sounds like, I think it's time to talk a little bit about what we mean when we're talking about this idea of maker spaces, which some people also refer to as a hacker space, a hack lab, a hack space. Wikipedia defines all of these spaces as community-operated workspaces where people with common interests, often in computers, machining, technology, science, digital art, or electronic art, can meet, socialize, and collaborate. Depending on what you read or who you talk to, there are such varying definitions of what a makerspace really is. Just a few days ago, I saw this tweet from MakerBridge asking the Twitterverse to write their definition of a makerspace. I think at this point, we've all heard the term makerspace and have at least a little working knowledge of what a makerspace is. I'm curious to know how you all might define the word makerspace. I'd love you to tweet your replies if you have any input to share on this. You can tweet it right to the hashtag for this session that I mentioned in the beginning. It's hashtag the EdCollab number 13. I believe that maker spaces and everyone's interpretation and definition of them are deeply personal. And because of that, no two maker spaces should ever look alike. Each one should reflect the needs, the wants, the interests of their individual school communities. So what is your take on maker spaces? What are they to you? I'd love to hear your voice on Twitter, which will only help to push this maker movement along. I did reply to MakerBridge's tweet with my own definition of what I feel a makerspace is. Now we all know that a makerspace in reality is a formalized workshop type of space, but really to me, it's just a metaphor for a place that encourages tinkering, play, and open-ended exploration for all students. If I had more characters on Twitter, I would have changed the word place to learning environment. So my complete definition of a makerspace to me is that a makerspace is a metaphor for a learning environment that encourages tinkering, play, and open-ended exploration for all. That is really what we're talking about in regards to this maker movement. This idea of making has really sparked a revolution in learning, and there are opportunities for all educators to create unique learning environments that best serve our 21st century learners. So let's take a look at some of those unique learning environments. This one is in the Chattanooga Public Library in Portland, Maine, where they created a fourth floor, a 14,000 square foot space that is part public laboratory, part educational space. Their vision is that the fourth floor will serve as a public laboratory and educational facility with a focus on information, design, technology, and the applied arts. Traditionally, library spaces support the consumption of knowledge by offering access to media. The fourth floor is unique because it supports the production, connection, and sharing of knowledge by offering access to tools and instruction. This is the Westport Library in Westport, Connecticut. They have a makerspace which serves as a model in this new wave of library services. Their space includes a 3D printer and hosts presentations and participatory workshops on topics ranging from robotics to arts and crafts. This is the Fayetteville Free Library in New York. They have not one, but 3 makerspaces. They have a creation lab, which focuses on digital creation. They have what they call a fab lab, which focuses on the fabrication of tangible objects. And then they have a little makerspace, which is a free play area that encourages children to create, imagine, and build. At the Allen County Public Library in Fort Wayne, Indiana, they have a makerspace that they call a Tech Venture Maker Station, which is actually in a trailer outside the library. And in this space, they have a number of hand, power, and electronic tools. Now, I realize these are examples of makerspaces in libraries. However, there is something that we can all take away from the makerspaces popping up all over the country. Really, whether you are a classroom teacher or a librarian, it is about moving from consumption to creation and turning knowledge into action. While the idea of making is certainly not new, today's makerspaces are rooted firmly in the 21st century. They're a mashup of differentiated learning experiences, combining traditional elements supported by new technologies. The maker approach to learning is highly student-driven and recognizes that while learning certainly does occur, it's not necessarily even the primary objective. To create my makerspace in my library, I used my school's existing space and resources, and also used the web to create a virtual extension of our makerspace. Whether you are a library media specialist and have room in your library to create a makerspace, or if you're a classroom teacher who embraces the principles of this maker movement, it's about allowing opportunities for students to create and to exploit the idea of experiential learning. In designing makerspaces, I feel many people take an incorrect approach of ordering equipment and materials before taking time to plan out the space. In developing my makerspace, I spent a lot of time first just talking to my students, watching them, to get a strong understanding of their needs, their wants, and their interests. I also spent time assessing existing curricula, programs, and offerings within my school community. I also considered global trends and best practices, and then took time to develop themes for my makerspace. After developing my themes, I finally ordered the equipment and supplies to support those themes. I then designed our makerspace to encourage meaningful student learning and to help cultivate a culture of innovation in our school. I encourage all of you to use this same approach, rather than just ordering the equipment and materials first, or even a makerspace in a box type of kit. This approach will ensure that your makerspace is a well-planned one, and that it will serve your students and your wider school community the best. So after my initial steps of understanding my learners, assessing courses and curriculum in my school, and considering global trends and best practices, I then moved into developing the themes for my makerspace. These included robotics, 3D printing and design, hacking, remixing the web, coding, computer programming, molecular gastronomy, wearable tech, electricity, papertronics, polymers, and engineering inventions. Many times in a makerspace, we see STEM-related themes, but they don't necessarily have to be. In fact, my entry point into the maker movement was through literacy, in which I provided opportunities for my students to play with story by remixing and mashing up and creating their own transmedia stories. After developing my themes, I then ordered my equipment and materials. They included Legos, we have architectural and simple machines, we have Raspberry Pis. I ordered a 3D MakerBot printer, Makey kits, Little Bits, Arduino boards, molecular gastronomy kits, robot kits, papertronic kits, and materials related to wearable technology. Let's talk a little bit about setting up your makerspace. In setting up your makerspace, it's really all about using the space and resources you have available to you. My library is in a very old building. It was built in 1928, and the library hadn't been renovated in decades. So I had to get creative and repurpose some library tables and library shelving to architect my makerspace. I know many educators who don't necessarily even have a room for a separate makerspace and instead incorporate a pop-up makerspace or a makerspace on a cart. The layout of my makerspace consists of what I call fixed stations and flexible stations. The fixed stations are areas that are out in our makerspace all of the time for students just to walk in and sit down at and engage with little or no teacher facilitation. These include our Little Bits bar, our Take Apart Tech Station, or Breaker Space we like to call it, our Lego table, our Makey Makey station, and our 3D design and printing station. The impetus behind choosing these to be our fixed stations was that I wanted to include activities that students would be able to start and complete during their limited time in the space, as well as have them be able to do so independently with little instruction on my part. This informal learning piece has been key in students wanting to visit the space and engage with the activities here on their free time. Included in my Makerspace are also some of what I call flexible stations. These are activities that rotate in and out of our space and are things that I take out when collaborating with classroom teachers, which include more formalized instruction. Some examples of that include molecular gastronomy, robotics, and electric circuitry. One of the highlights of our Makerspace is our smart TV. Each day I put up on our smart TV something I call a digital breadcrumb. If you follow me on Pinterest, you'll see I have a digital breadcrumb board where I've pinned some of our favorites. I use this eye-catching display to draw students into our Makerspace through a high-interest activity. Sometimes this includes playing a virtual musical instrument, playing a game, or creating an electric circuit as seen above. More often than not, students who have never visited our Makerspace before are drawn in this, and after engaging with our smart TV, find themselves in the middle of our Makerspace and usually explore some of the other activities in the space. I want to share with you, before I leave you today, some useful resources that you might want to take a look at that I think will help you in creating your Makerspace. These are the resources that I used, and I found them to be very useful. One that I like that is free and online is this Makerspace Playbook. It's intended to offer some guidance to those who are hoping to start a Makerspace at their school or even in their community. Contents of the playbook include how to get started, the beginnings of your Makerspace, where you could have your Makerspace, tools and material suggestions, roles, practices. They even have a case study in a year of making, projects, and various snapshots and resources that you can look at when planning out your Makerspace. Invent to Learn. This is a great book to read on this whole maker movement. It's written by Sylvia Martinez and Gary Stager. This book is jam-packed with thoughts and ideas on using technology to make, repair, or customize the things we need that brings engineering, design, and computer science to the masses. It also talks about how, fortunately for educators, this maker movement overlaps with the natural inclinations of children and the power of learning by doing. This is a website called Makershed that I order most of my materials from, and something that I love about Makershed is that you can browse their items by level: beginner, intermediate, and advanced. This is another site that I tend to order a lot of my materials from, and I especially like how this site sorts their materials by themes. It also might give you ideas for your own themes when you're developing them for your Makerspace or your maker-related activities. Something else to consider in this whole maker movement is the idea of a maker fair. It's an important piece of the maker movement, and it's about finding ways to create opportunities to celebrate and share your students' creations. One of the ways you can do that is to attend or even host an organized type of maker event called a maker fair. A maker fair is an event created by Make magazine to celebrate arts, crafts, engineering, science projects, and really has a whole DIY mindset. I participated in one myself, which was a Brooklyn Story Makers Maker Party organized by the Brooklyn Public Library and Hive New York City Learning Network. At the event, children had the opportunity to create online comics, design video games, make stop-motion animation, and many other activities designed to unlock their creative potential. My school even participated in a virtual maker fair hosted by the White House. This event was an opportunity to highlight both the remarkable stories of makers and commitments by leading organizations to help more students and entrepreneurs get involved in making things. We tweeted pictures and videos of our student creations to the hashtag for this event, which was hashtag I made this. As mentioned in the beginning of my presentation, I also have a website for my Makerspace, worlds-of-making-nmhs.com, which also showcases our student creations. I've seen an adoption curve with all of this. I get inquiries all the time from librarians and educators across the country who are interested in this maker movement and who want to create a maker space, but aren't sure if they have the right resources, schedule, budget, and are reluctant to take risks. My advice is always to use what you have access to. Don't let anything stand in your way. If you build it, they will come. At the heart of the maker movement is how we can leverage the technologies, resources, materials all around us to engage and reach our learners. I designed our Makerspace to encourage meaningful student learning and to help cultivate a culture of innovation in our school. The maker movement is moving into classrooms, so no matter what grade level, content area you are, or what your area of expertise is, the maker movement has created opportunities for all educators to rethink traditional learning environments to include those that nurture creativity and innovation that will benefit our students both in school and beyond. If you let them build it, they will learn. I would like to thank you all for joining me today. I'd love to answer any questions you may have or hear your maker stories. Please tweet them to the hashtag for this session, which again is hashtag the EdCollab number 13. Thank you, everybody.